One of the wonderful things about Bible study is to see how Scripture interprets Scripture, how one biblical writer can help us to understand another biblical writer. Now, we see an example of this happening in one of the chapters we covered today in Bible in 1 Year, Jeremiah 34. There we have an example of some Israelites who have cut a covenant. That's the Hebrew way of saying make a covenant. They've taken animals and divided them and walked between them. And God says to them that He's going to make them like the calf that they cut in two and passed between the pieces. So part of the arrangement of the covenant was, if you don't keep that covenant, may you be like these sacrificial animals that were cut in two. Now that sheds light on what's happening back in Genesis 15 when God cuts a covenant with Abraham. He had Abraham divide these sacrificial animals in two, and then not Abraham, but God passed between these two pieces. God is telling Abraham when he made this covenant with him, may I become like these sacrificial animals if I don't keep this covenant with you. And of course, God keeps the covenant. He's faithful to the promise to Abraham. So this is one example of how Scripture interprets Scripture. Genesis helps us to understand Jeremiah, and Jeremiah helps us to understand Genesis. And it's one of the many reasons that when we study the Scriptures, we can't just study the New Testament or the Old Testament, but we study the entire breadth of Scripture so that together we might understand how Scripture helps us to understand Scripture.